pull into position with Zihai Wang and Ben Taylor at the tail of the field. I think they're more or less where they ought to be. And we are ready then to go racing for 20 minutes in the Clapham North Mazda MX-5 SuperCup Championship here at Donington Park. Red lights go out now, and it's a good start made from Kamal Khalzi on the outside of row one. Kamal Khalzi will get the lead on the run into Redgate Corner as they head into the braking zone at the right-hander for turn one. We've got Alistair Dendy making moves there in the 18 car as well to third up the inside of Tom Langford, so it's all changed as we round the first corner and head down through the Craner curves for the first time of asking. So it is Khalzi who leads, Parent Smith second, Dendy up into third, and side by side then between Tom Langford, who I think is just going to get the better of that battle for fourth, is he? Maybe not, actually. Will Antrobus, I think it is that he's scrapping with, and Antrobus will actually get the better of Langford. Neither of them, though, Scott, having a particularly good start.
Now, all the top three have never won a Mazda MX-5 Super Cup race outright, so either Khalzi, Parent Smith or Dendy can manage it. And despite starting from pole and losing the spot to his Hills Motorsport teammate, straight on his toes as Langford gets spat out to the outside line. He loses spots to Middleton and also now to Dendy Sadler and also now to Scott Wright, former club class champion himself. Good to see him back in the championship this year. And now Langford really is losing a bit of momentum. He gets elbowed out again over the curb. He's going to lose out another spot to the club class leader. In fact, he's tumbling down to the bottom of the pro class running. The only car that hasn't got past him in that class, two in fact, are Martin Tolley and Robert Way. Leaders go into the chicane. Oh, Kamal Khalzi, massive clip. He's so close. There's cutting it close like Monaco at the barriers into the swimming pool chicane, and there's that. That was pretty tense to get through. And also getting up there as well from the back of the grid, showing the pace of it. Zihai Wang in that orange Paul Scheer prepared Mark IV. So getting up there pretty well. But out in front, Kamal Khalzi leading his teammate. But Dan Parent-Smith on a mission, not letting his teammate get away that easy.
No, definitely not. And as always is the case in Mazda MX-5 racing, or usually anyway, it's very hard to break away at the front of the field because of the power of the slipstream. No one told Jordan Pimbley, of course, who dominated that MX-5 Clubman race earlier on. But now in drier conditions, I do expect some more typical Mazda MX-5 action, as there is a typical Mazda MX-5 move up the inside for Tom Langford. Now, what is Langford doing down in 10th position? I know he lost some ground on the first lap. We saw him go wide up here at McLean. But Tom Langford, who on drop scores, if you like, would be the championship leader right now. It's only that non-finish that sees him arrive at Donington 6th in outright points, is a long way out of position, I would argue, at this stage, Scott.
Yeah, it possibly looks like he lost momentum all the way back at McLean's and then tried to regain it all the way through to the pit straight where he was stuck on the wrong line. People just kept training past him one after the other. Eventually the momentum stopped of cars passing him. And he's had to try and regroup himself. That move up the inside for 10th on Steve Kite would have certainly helped set that one back off. Let's look at his time, see what he can do. He'll be helped by the scrap that's going on between Martin Tolley and Jim Barrett for position. Khalzi sets the fastest proper flying lap of the race, which gets beaten by Lee Dendy Sadler. The rest of the pack comes streaming through. There goes Chris Ginn. And Martin Tolley, who is not in a typical livery for himself. He is in what was, I think, Nick Grindrod's old car. Yes, in terms of the colours. Of yellow and red. There's Zihai Wang, who's running quite well. And as I talk about Martin Tolley, he's run wide at Redgate, and through goes the Mark IV. Got good pace. In fact, if you look back at Alton Park, that car set the overall fastest lap of the entire weekend, is Zihai Wang. So good potential for the Mark IVs, and seeing how they mix amongst these Mark IIIs in the more natural habitat for the Mark IIIs on the SuperCup grid.
Yeah, it'd be good to get a few more of the Mark IVs out there. We've seen them sporadically appear in BRSCC circles over the years, and who knows, I know there are more of them out there, so it'd be good to get them out on track racing with us if possible, as Martin Tolley in the Go For It racing car has some defending to do up at McLean's corner. That's Steve Kite trying to slip through, to no avail at this stage, and then also the 76 car right behind them, making that very much a three-way fight. And that is Zihai Wang in the 76 car. So down into the chicane with three abreast here. This has got trouble written all over it. A really feisty move for Will Antrobus to get to the inside of two cars there through the chicane. One of which was Sam Middleton's white and pink example. The other was Lee Dendy Sadler, I think, who was very nearly caught up in some contact. And now we've got another car joining in the fun. That's the 88 machine of Scott Wright, the red car. So four cars battling away for fourth position. There There are the leading three, though, and Kamal Khalsi, Dan Parent-Smith and Alistair Dendy getting away now from maybe a few more of the established front runners in this category. So good chance, as you alluded to, Scott, that we're going to add a new name to the winners list if they carry on like this. They are charging away from the chasing pack behind.
Speaking of charging, the Mark IV certainly motoring along. It's just passed Tom Langford on pace and also set the fastest lap of the race. So Zhihai Wang is moving along quite nicely in now what's that 8th position ahead of the former Mark 1 champion. As see Teddy Sadler getting used to rear-wheel drive again, and the momentum that he lost, and he gives that to Sam Middleton on the outside line. Easily slots in now in front and now behind Olwyn Antrobus. As now John Barrett's getting back into this now. He is the leader in the club class from Steve Kite and then Richard Moore, who's in the yellow and purple number 16 car in third in class. Leaders go back into the chicane now at the end of lap 4. And we've got 3 battle packs going on, and Middleton got very sideways, clipped the curb on the inside and got loose. That now gives Lee Dendy Sadler the chance to try and close back in, but they're all starting to stack up a little bit here as we've got Scott Wright and Zhihai Wang in the Mark IV, and he's now thinking, not just thinking, going for it down the inside of Scott Wright. Has no option but to rethink the turn into his apex, and through goes Wang into what that puts him into 7th position overall. He is the fastest man on track. He's in a 1:22.255. That's at least a couple of tenths quicker, at least, than the 3 cars in the lead group. As they head down towards the old hairpin, there's battles galore as that's now Kite and Way for position, but it won't affect Kite's position in the club class. He still leads.
Indeed so. I'll tell you what, Zhihai Wang is going to be thinking about the win here, I think, isn't he? Because you're right, he's quicker than the leaders. He's carving through the order quite rapidly. And I think if that orange Mark IV gains a few more positions over the next lap or so, he could well have time to close in on the leading group, which would be a turn up for the books. So through McLean's corner comes this midfield battle. The 72 car there of Steve Kite having lost out, and there is Wang gaining another spot now up at Coppy's corner. So he's picking them up and putting them down quite quickly. He's knocking on the door now, Scott, of the top 5.
He is. That's partly Dendy Sadler up at Coppis. So that means now he's starting to push his way forwards. And of course, as I've said so many times, if the harder these 3 fight each other, the easier it's going to be for him to make more progress. Dendy Sadler tries to come back at him at the apex at the entrance to Roberts chicane, but there's no doing. So he now finds himself under threat from the recovering Langford after his wayward first lap that saw him down outside the top 10. There's the other Mark IV, the black number 64 or 84 of Ben Taylor, who was a regular in the Evolution Trophy when that existed. And there goes Thomas Langford, also picking up another place on Lee Dendy Sadler, and that puts him up into 7th place, so steadily moving forwards, trying to go with Zhihai Wang, as there's Martin Tolley going rally crossing through the gravel, and fair play for keeping his foot in. He wasn't like getting stuck in, he simply just tried to carry on. But immediately you can see here, Andy, Zhihai Wang, you're absolutely right. He's right on the back now of the fight for 4th between Antrobus and Middleton. And given we haven't even hit half distance yet, you'd have betting that at the very least a podium could be in the offing here. He's going on the attack towards McLean's.
Yep, to the outside of Middleton. Then this for 5th position. He's later on the brakes, tries to carry the momentum round the outside, but didn't really have the grip available to him there. But yeah, I think when he gets past Antrobus and Middleton, which I think he will do imminently, it's going to be really interesting then to see what pace he's got in clean air. How much quicker than the leading 3 is he capable of going with no one in front of him, because those leading 3 are 4 seconds or so up the road from this battle pack for 4th position. So there go the leaders through the chicane, and then in the background there you can see the battle going on for 4th position, and it's a change, is it? No, Antrobus defends from Middleton into the right-hand element of the chicane. That will slow Middleton down on the exit though, and so here comes Wang, here comes Langford, and here comes Lee Dendy Sadler as well. Wang to the inside of Middleton, and in fact has a go at Antrobus, who slams the door decisively in his face, but I think Wang will still gain 1 position. Indeed he does, and William Antrobus is not going to move aside here for the quite clearly quicker Mark IV. He's going to defend that position for as long as he can.
It will give a little bit of respite to the top 3, who are in a world of their own still at the front, because Wang hasn't got past all the cars in this group just yet. He has got dispatched Middleton, and here comes Langford slotting his way through beautifully up the inside of the club class champion from last year. Middleton will have a little bit of momentum as they go up the hill to try and get himself around the outside for Schwanzkurve. It'll put him on the inside for the right-hander at McLean's at the top of the hill, and Langford has to give him the room, leans on him slightly, and as they come back out into sight, he's given up the ghost and decided to hold back for the next opportunity into the chicane at this time. Right, there's Jim Barrett, who is still the club class leader, and then Steve Kite will come through eventually. But he's behind Robert Way now. There's been a change for position, which will have held up Steve even further. Steve, the club class points leader coming into the weekend. There goes the top 3, and Wang has got through. So the momentum he carried has pushed him past Antrobus. Now the question is, will he pull away from this group, or will he start to bring this train with him towards the top 3? They've calmed down at the front, but there's still 10 minutes to go. And if he can bring them through, and particularly with the pace that Langford's showing, has Scott Wright's out of the race, which is a shame. So issues for him. I can't tell whether he's whacked the barrier or not. And
no.
that is Langford and Antrobus off the road. That was Langford out of control. Straight into the front corner of Antrobus, into the gravel. Gets back onto it. But as we cut back, the camera won't give us the answer. But what on earth was happening there?
That was bizarre, wasn't it? We'd seen Antrobus make a late defensive move against Wang a lap ago, and I have to wonder whether he and Langford maybe found themselves side by side, and there wasn't quite space for the pair of them. There's damage to the right front corner of Antrobus's car, and he's lost a lot of positions as well, but not quite as much ground as Tom Langford lost, so another bit of a disaster then for the 3-time race winner this season, Tom Langford, but he just can't seem to piece together a consistent run of results at this stage. And it looks as though this one's going to be perhaps another disappointment. Still got nearly half the race to go. Don't know how much damage was done to Langford's car. Antrobus's car doesn't look great, but is still going quite quickly, as demonstrated by the fact he just made another move up into Coppice Corner. But a little bit of drama then among 2 of the championship front runners at the front of the race. It remains a 3-way fight, but I'm going to watch with interest now the lap time of Zihuai Wang and see whether or not he's going quicker than the race leaders. The leaders then come across the line. They're all in the high 1-minute 22s, 22.8 for the leader. Wang a 23.6. So at the moment, without a slipstream, he's not quite quick enough to bridge the gap to the leading 3.
Yeah, that outright pace certainly working well. There's the evidence of the contact between Langford and Antrobus. That's looking a little less showroom-spec, shall we say, on the front of Antrobus's car. He's dropped back to 7th, and now having to hold off Jim Barrett. We're side by side behind that scrap. This is Steve Kite and Robert Way, not in the same classes. As off the road goes Alex Jones in the Bromley Motorsport run car. Amble's back on, and that puts him back in 15th place. And there is Thomas Langford, who's severely lost a lot of pace, and unsurprisingly will bring it to pit road, and that might well be, that's what any suitable result for him is completely gone. So this will have to be, as you say, another drop score, and that will put pressure on him early on, because he's now had, this isn't an official DNF yet, but of course it's going to be a non-score, a minimal score based on where he is. With the DNF from race 1, it means that he's really on the back foot, so he's going to have to rely on good, clean results, and he can only afford 1 more DNF before he starts eating into the points that he's had, because apart from that, if you get 3 DNFs or non-starts or non-scores, that's it. They have to be mandatory ones that you have to use, that they're your 3 worst results because you either didn't take part in the race or you didn't finish. So that will mean that he's going to have to really be on it and hope for good luck all the way through. Otherwise, his charge for the title might well derail faster than he hopes.
Yes, that's definitely the danger, isn't it, for Tom Langford. And we'll wait and see whether he can get back out there on track. Worth doing, as you said, to try and just score some points, although it will likely go down as a drop score if he ends up having to fall back on this finish. He'd rather have some points to fall back on than none. So, leading 3 then, down through the old hairpin. Now, this has been quite well behaved at the front of the field so far. Kamal Khalsi's led since getting the lead off the line. Dan Parron-Smith seemingly has been quite content to sit in 2nd position since then. And Alistair Dendy, you feel, is just keeping a watching brief in 3rd. But at some point, you have to feel that Dan Parron-Smith is going to have a go at getting the lead here. Such is the nature of MX-5 racing. As we mentioned a couple of times, the power of that slipstream means that you can just sit behind other cars for a while and decide to make the move when you want to. Normally that comes in the final 3rd of the race. Well, guess what, everyone? We are at the final 3rd of the race, and I think it's almost time for there to be a move, although Alistair Dendy's chances of winning the race have just taken a knock. He's been given a 5-second track limits penalty, and so the 3rd car in this picture then, the white-fronted car, is not really a contender now. 5 seconds to be added onto his time at the end of the race, and so now it's really down to the 2 drivers ahead, Kamal Khalsi and Dan Parron-Smith. When does Dan elect to make his move? I'm sure he's not going to sit in 2nd place till the checkered flag without at least trying something.
It certainly could be the case. I'm certain that the person whose probably heart rate is higher than anyone else's is Aidan Hills, watching both of his 2 leading cars in the mix. I would imagine that the penalty has flashed up on the electronic board that's on the timing screen to see if it's come through. And Dan Parron-Smith's been given a time penalty as well. So at this rate, Kamal Khalsi, provided he stays where he is, regardless of what happens, is effectively on course with 5.5 minutes to go to pick up his first MX-5 Super Cup victory. The only caveat where that might not happen is if he gets a 5-second penalty, which means they all stay in the same order. Effectively, whichever order they stay on the track, it'll just bring 5 seconds back towards everybody else. So, and that will, on the timing screen, brings Zihai Wang closer, but still some 8 seconds back from the lead at this point.
Yes, he could gain though, of course, if these three start to fall over each other, so don't count out a Mark 4 victory just yet. It could come courtesy of track limits penalties, but that all hinges on Kamal Kalsi picking one up, which at the moment he has not, and let's hope that the team can get the message over to him somehow that the two cars behind him, two drivers behind him, do both have penalties. He could afford now to let Dan Parent-Smith and Alistair Dendy through and just stay with them and claim the victory anyway. So across the line they go. Top three covered by 0.8 of a second on the road, but quite a bit more than that on corrected times. It is advantage Kamal Kalsi, courtesy of being the only one of these three not to have a 5-second penalty heading his way. Wang, by the way, is almost exactly matching their pace. In fact, he was only a couple of hundredths slower than the leader last time by, but that means he's not bridging that gap. So 7 seconds further back in fourth, a bit of a lonely fourth now. Same true actually of Sam Middleton in fifth, who's got about 3 seconds over Lee Dendy Sadler. Who too is getting away actually from William Antrobus's slightly damaged car, so it's all sort of spread out a little bit in the midfield. This perhaps now the better of the battles, isn't it, with Steve Kite trying to defend 9th position from the number 98 car of Robert Way. These two were very evenly matched in qualifying. They shared the 6th row of the grid, and they're nose to tail again now with just under 4 minutes of the race remaining. Indeed.
Overall position, so they're both different classes. Robert Way, of course, he was a former club class contender, if at least I think he was the champion at one point in club class, so battling the current club class championship leader in Steve Kite, first boss of Misty Racing. They've been running cars a lot in themselves in Mazdas before, but decided to jump in and have a proper full season himself in a Mark III. See the Clapham North decals on the back as they make their way down towards the Redgate corner.
Kamal Kalsi, 5-second penalty for track limits. So
game on.
There we go. It's all matters again now. Who gets in front? Sorry, Scott. I just saw that pop up on the timing screen. It's not yet appeared on our screen, but I just saw a message. Yes, number 64, time penalty, 5 seconds, exceeding track limits. So all he had to do, we were saying, was not exceed track limits, and he had an easy race victory. Now he's got a fight on his hands again.
Yeah, and of course this has been another key factor. What does this car do? Because of course if this car gets within 5 seconds, then none of them are going to win the race because it'll go through. And he has just set the fastest lap of the race at 1:22.231. So he is motoring along. And the gap at the moment now across the line, as Ben Taylor comes into the pits, the other Mark IV that's been having 1 or 2 issues it seems, gap is now 7.3 seconds off the lead. So, and he's 6.2 seconds behind 3rd place. So if he gets one of the 1.2 seconds to close in these next 2.5 minutes or so, and if Denny starts falling back further on, he could end up ending up on the podium overall as another penalty comes up the Shepherd Martin Tolley. Hand him out like sweets at this point rather than anything else. But it's quite ironic that the top 3 all have 5-second penalties, so the order won't be the same. So literally, if Parent-Smith passes Kalsi, he will be, once again, 4th position for the victory. It'll just will bring them closer to this man in 4th position. He works his way through. And meanwhile, behind them, it's all spread out very quite sort of Grand Canyon-sized gaps. You've got Steve Middleton in 5th position in no man's land. Dendy Sadler in 6th. John Christie Rundle has another 5-second penalty. So again, another one being handed out for track limits. You've then got Antrobus 7th. Jim Barrett, who leads club class in 8th from Steve Kite, who's now still ahead of Robert Way in P10. So lots of very busy race control in these last few minutes, handing out penalties, but it's quite ironic that all top 3 will stay in the same order despite them all getting penalties.
Yes, indeed so. So now, Dan Parent-Smith needs to try and make a move if possible. He needs to do it without losing too much time to Zihai Wang, who's charging behind.
I should say at this point now, Wang will be 3rd because the gap between himself and Dendy is 4.4 seconds, so he will push Dendy off the overall podium.
But he's taking at least half a second a lap all of a sudden out of the leaders, and they're going to have another lap after this one. This is going to be very, very tight. If he keeps on taking that sort of time out of them, it was 6/10 the last time, it was half a second the time after that, he could get within 5 seconds of the leaders, especially if Dan Parent-Smith has a go at Kamal Kalsi, although that's looking less likely. Kamal Kalsi's now put his foot down and has started to gap the 2nd placed car. Does that mean, though, he's now going quicker than the 4th place man on the road? This is fascinating.
So the gap we need to watch, it was 6.8 seconds between Wang and the lead car of Kelsey. We need to see what the gap is now when they come across the line between first and fourth to determine if there's going to be any more changes. It's gone up at 7.1, so he is... I think he's close enough to deny... No, he's not close enough to deny Parris Smith second. He's close enough for third, that's fine, but second place is a bit too far in front to make that happen.
Yes, 4 now, but could that change? Can Dan Parris-Smith catch Kamal Khalzi? He's just about within slipstreaming range, I would argue, and he's putting together a good first few corners here. Really takes to the inside curve through the old hairpin, and this is where that slipstream really starts to take effect now as they climb quite steeply uphill here through the left-hand kink at Starkey's, the next one at Schwantz Curve. And then through the first of the 2 right-handers at the top end of the circuit. McLean's the first one, the more sweeping right-hander. And then up to the highest point on the circuit at Coppice, which is this really tricky blind right-hander. It's a small apex that you've got to aim for. You have to commit to the corner before you can see it. And Dan Parris-Smith has done a good job there. Kamal Khalzi a little bit slow off the corner. And I think Dan Parris-Smith might have a go here down into the final corner. Kamal Khalzi is defending. That's going to slow them both down if he continues to do so. Parris-Smith to the outside is very late on the brakes. He's not going to go through on the way into the corner. Can he get the better exit and try and beat him in a drag race to the line? I don't think he's quite going to get there. Kamal Khalzi is going to win on the road. How much time did that little defensive move cost them? That's the question. Across the line in third on the road will go Alistair Dendy, and it is going to be fourth on the road, but third on corrected times for Zihai Wang by a second. Kamal Khalzi managed to keep him behind. So Khalzi and Parris-Smith will be the top 2, and Wang just needed to gain another second there in the closing stages, and he would have claimed the overall victory. But in the end, the Mark IV driver has to settle for third position. But that was a bizarre final half a lap. Kamal Khalzi really lost ground up through Coppice Corner.
Whether he missed a gear or something happened, which was a glitch of some kind, but he found enough pace to get back as there's more scrapping to the line. This is Alex Jones and Graham Rumsey to the flag. It's going to be very close in the end across the line, and it goes the way of Rumsey by 0.160 of a second as they come through. But what matters most is where you're at the checkered flag, and even though Kamal Khalzi, I'm sure, will mention to Rob Lewis exactly what happened on that last lap that saw Dan go for that last gasp attempt to steal the victory, managed to hold on, and that is for him a landmark victory. That's his first overall Mazda MX-5 SuperCup victory, and very well earned from a good start from the front row of the grid. And despite the pressure from Dan all the way through, managed to gap him enough, and even with the 5-second penalty, held him off and pretty much took a lights to flag win, which is an excellent run for him, and that will be a culmination of lots of hard work. He was always a quick club class driver, moved up to pro, found a bit more steady pace. This has been the year he's found a lot more underneath him, and so he'll be hoping that he can keep that up and keep that momentum going throughout the rest of the weekend.
Indeed so. So the cars then make their way back to pit lane after a nail-biting conclusion to that MX-5 Super Cup race, but it is Kamal Khalzi who manages to claim the victory. Dan Parris-Smith, interestingly, is ahead of him on the way into the pit lane, but Kamal Khalzi definitely got to the checkered flag first and claimed his first victory in the championship. Really good result that for him, having started on the front row of the grid, and in the end led from lights to flag with Parris-Smith second and Zihai Wang in third position in the Mark IV. Then Alistair Dendy and Sam Middleton, with Lee Dendy Sadler and Will Antrobus next in line. Jim Barrett, Steve Kite and Robert Way completed the top 10 ahead of Richard Moore and Martin Tolley in 12th position. 13th was Graham Rumsey, then Alex Jones with Christopher Ginn, Jonathan Christie-Rundle and Ben Taylor next. Tom Langford, a non-finisher, significantly perhaps in the context of the championship for the AB Motorsport driver, and Scott Wright for Paddock Motorsport, also failing to get to the flag. His car stopped at the side of the road up at McLean's corner. Right, some very happy drivers down in the